Wellington Rugby TV, welcome back. Ross Bond with you as we head into the final round of the Swindale Shield. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but joined this morning by Wellingtonian through and through, Hurricanes coach, Lions coach, New Zealand under-20s coach. The list goes on. Chris Boydie, welcome. Welcome
along. Tawa, mate.
I was getting to that bit. Now I'm going to grill you this morning, but I'm not going to grill you about Hurricanes. I'm going to grill you about you as a person and why you ended up sitting here as a Hurricanes coach. So let's go back to Tawa. Let's go back to that school. Where'd you go to school? Did you go to school?
Yeah, just to eat my lunch.
Yeah, so no, you and I together.
Started at Tawa Primary School and then Redwood School opened up and ended up at Tawa College. So grew up in the valley there.
First 15?
Yep, had a couple of years, 2 and a bit years in the first 15. So probably the majority of my best mates are still the guys that I played first 15 with at Tawa College, and we all went on to play at the Tawa Club, and we had a really tight group of mates there, and you know, we still have great hilarity when we get together.
Where did you play? What position?
Oh, mainly at fullback, sometimes at centre, but played pretty averagely, to be honest, Bondy.
First game on Athletic Park?
First game on Athletic Park was a curtain raiser to the British and Irish Lions against Rongotai College. Did you play in that game?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I had to go back and look at it. No, I did go back and look. No, I wasn't there that day.
Evan Hopkin played, I remember that. And
yeah, Hoppy was there.
I think Steve Rogers, the now CEO of Wellington Rugby Union, might have dropped a goal for victory 12-9, I think, from memory. Is that right?
I think you're right. He's told me to ask that question just because it was his one little moment in the spotlight. Yeah. School trips with the first 15? Are they sort of memories for you?
Yeah, greatly so. We went to Australia when it was the sixth form. It's now year 12, is that right?
Yep.
So we had a tour to Australia, and the following year we had a tour to the South Island, and so they were fantastic years. We had a coach there, Norm Pratt, who was a really enthusiastic rooster and really drove the rugby program well. Had a pretty reasonable side, and we had some great times. Yeah.
So you progressed through into the Tawa Club, and I know you're still a passionate supporter of Tawa. Played and then ended up in the coaching ranks.
Yeah, played until I got a bit of a bug to go overseas, and went overseas in '83. Had 4 years based in London, and then came back in '88 and started coaching then. Memories from Tawa?
Games that stand out for you? Characters that were in and around the scene at that time. You've mentioned Rogers. We won't dwell on him too much, but
I think it's just when you look back, we were in that vacuum of the transition between amateur and professional, and the things I look fondly back on. The amateur days were, you know, cleaning up on a Sunday and having a bit of a Sunday sesh with the boys, or playing cards.
That was when you used to kid yourself, eh? You used to go and have a run in the morning, and then you'd sit in the clubhouse all afternoon. But you went for your run first.
That's quite right.
I remember those days.
Getting the roast on in the kitchen and playing cards till the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah,
and stuff
keys to the kitchen was key though, wasn't it?
It was. Always got to have a feed. Responsible host.
Yes,
you know,
very much so.
Beer, you got to have a roast.
Yeah. Interesting guys you've played with or coached with over the years. Some characters. Chris Sterling, I guess, is sort of up there.
Yeah, so Stirls I coached with at Tawa, and he's off now, obviously, to Yorkshire, and you know, he was been involved in the Hurricanes, and so we had a really good crew out there at a period of time when I was coaching. You know, guys like Adrian McKenzie, Tim McManaway, Sam Tovo, you know, Eugene Sherrick. There's some really good footballers.
What do you think the standard of club scene is at the moment? I know that you're still, whenever you can, you're out there on the sidelines having a look. What do you think the standard's like at the moment?
Well, I think there's a whole cultural change around club football now. You know, when you and I first started playing footy, at club level there was, you know, half the team were 30 years old, and you went from club football to play for Wellington. And if you were really good, you played for the All Blacks, and there was no professionalism, it was amateur. And so guys stayed and played the game. They all worked. Now it seems that if you know, you're 22 years old and you're not in some sort of system, then people get get scared off and think that, they can't be a rugby player anymore and they go and do something else. So I think it's got younger, and because it's got younger, it's got less experience, and because it's less experienced, it's probably doesn't have the same level of intensity and quality that there was in yesteryear.
The game itself's changed. I mean, I think back to when you and I are playing and what we see now, I guess the physicality, the collision areas are totally different. I don't know whether I would survive these days. Skinny little white boy standing at first.
Well, I think the physicality of the
I've changed a bit. Yeah.
I think the athletes changed, but if you think back, if I think back to the 70s and 80s club football in Wellington, it was dominated by intimidation, and you'd go into Marist and they had a crew there of Standish and O'Leary and Wilkinson and etc. And you go over to Wellington and there was, Jimmy May and Dunkawa, and go to Paniki and there's Kevin Carmichael and Hakariah and
Freddie Baker and Henny Tonu and
you
I was quite good standing behind them.
You go to Batoni and you've got Clout and Martin and and it just went on. And so whilst the athletes have got more physical, I think historically through that period of time, those games were brutal, and she was a real physical ding dong, wasn't it?
You ended up coaching with the Rats, of course, the Wellington B side with Gups, and then sort of progressed through the ranks. Was it always something you wanted to do? Was it you wanted to sort of go bang, bang, bang to get where you are now, or was one day you went, oh no, should I? I'm not sure. No,
I never had any desire to be anything in coaching. When I came back from the UK, I was 30, decided I'd have one more go, and ended up breaking some ribs in the first game, and the guy who I was playing under said, do you want to start coaching? And I did, and I've never put my boots on since, and that was 1988. So I haven't missed a season for 30 years, and just enjoyed what I was doing, and it went from club to, as you say, with Gups into the Rats and Wellington B, which was some really fond memories. And then Gups moved on, and I took that program for a couple of years. It was a really good program then.
It was.
I think one year we had 9 different internationals in the team, and it was a really good competition. We followed the lines everywhere and played curtain raisers, and then Plum came in 2003, and I got the opportunity to take that leap of faith from being an amateur coach into the professional ranks.
Hasn't all been roses and ice creams though, has it? I mean, There's been some down times. Have you got to any stage, and I guess the season with the Lions, it wasn't a fantastic season. Have you ever sat there and gone, I'm over it, I just don't want to do this anymore?
No, I felt it was really interesting because, as an example with Waddy, I thought that was the best season I've seen him coach. I mean, he did a wonderful job in a time when things were going bad, and we had 9 losses in a row, and we got relegated, and it was tough. And I think, if you've been around long enough, everybody has a period of time where things aren't going right, and your natural inclination is to try and work harder and do more and look for answers, and sometimes you just got to relax and sit back and not get so tied into it. But that was a really, really tough season. The thing that I would proudly look back onto that season, despite the fact we got relegated and we only won 1 game all year, I don't think it was an unhappy team because we were losing. But nobody gave up, and we had some really good players in that space, and that wasn't working for us, and we couldn't get it right. We played 5 different first 5/8s in the first 6 weeks, and we couldn't get that part of our game going to somebody to run it for us. And it was tough for guys like Brad Shields, as an example, who just worked his ass off as he normally does, but we just couldn't get the results.
You've come sitting here as a professional rugby coach now, but the early days, pharmacist, your shoe salesman, memories of those? The retail side of things for you?
Well, again, if I go, that was my first connection with Gups. I went to the CIT and did pharmacy, and to be brutally honest, didn't really, spent 3 or 4 years training for that, and then got out into the real world and didn't particularly enjoy working in that space. And one day I woke up and decided to, with my brother, open up Lifestyle Sports, a shoe footwear and apparel sports store in Willer Street. And we had 16 good years in Willer Street.
So was it that long?
Till we finally got evicted and our spot got taken over by the Foot Locker. So I don't know why I went there, Bondi, because you could ask my wife Linda, my worst day in my life is if I have to shop. So I absolutely hate shopping. So why I got into a retail store, I've got no idea. I don't particularly like selling.
No.
I'm not a pushy person, so I'm not a great salesman. So I was better off when I wasn't on the floor just yarning to people.
Yeah, I remember. Mate, you're about to, there's another chapter of the Chris Boyd coaching world about to open up. You're heading across to the UK. Exciting, I'm sure. You ready to go though? Are you ready to go? Are you ready to leave Wellington and the Hurricanes?
Look, I think at the end of the day, you work backwards a little bit, and I sat there and thought, perhaps it could have gone on for a little bit, and I might have tried to get involved in an international side for another World Cup. I worked with Tonga in the 2011 World Cup and really enjoyed that. It was a good fun occasion, and so the idea of perhaps linking up with a Tier 2 nation for the World Cup in Japan had some appeal. But in the end, the opportunity to go north and get my teeth into something that I felt had a really good fit, was a telling combination.
Kiwis on the roster there?
Not a lot. I've contracted Ben Franks since we've been up there, and so Ben's going to come across from London Irish, and Nafi Tuitavaki's played here. Nafi's there. It's probably a bigger Piers Francis, who's just been picked for England. Played some footy here in Auckland and counties, obviously, but is English. There's probably a slightly bigger Australian influence, so we'll have to do something about that.
You'll have to speak slower for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I've got to ask you about the Hurricanes just very briefly. Away to the Highlanders this weekend, then the international test window. If you look at where the Canes are at now, you happy? Take away last weekend.
Yeah,
That's gone. Take that away. Are you happy?
We're almost in control of our own destiny, but not quite. So I think if there's an awful lot of water to go under the bridge. The Crusaders have got a bye. We're all playing each other. Everybody's got an opportunity. The draw's been carefully crafted, so all the Kiwi sides will finish on one side of the draw. So it's a tough run home for everybody, actually. Nice.
Talking about tough runs home and the draw and things, the Swindale Shield's come down to the last weekend. Of course, it's not a top 8 anymore. No. Simple maths for Watty, you and I doesn't work anymore. It doesn't go 14, 8, 4, 2, 1. So we've got to go to 7. Some key games in this week's round. We'll just truck through them. I'll get your opinion. Avalon, Paniki knocking over Petone last week, so Jubilee Cup safe. Good little resurgence for the Red and Blacks.
Yeah, they've done really well, and it's the thing that I'm really encouraged about for them is that they've appointed a good young local guy to coach there, and there's a lot of emotional connection with that family to Paniki, and the fact that they're doing well is, I think is great. And on the other boot, I think having Avalon done well this year. They've bowled over some sides, and they've played really well in patches, and Scotty Waldron is obviously doing a good job out there, and they'll be tougher when Thomas comes back.
They will be. Yeah. So who's going to win that one? Fraser Park.
Waddy will kill me if I don't say Paniki.
I know. Yeah, righto.
Sorry, Scotty.
Hutt Old Boys Marist hovering around just in third place there against Wainui. Wainui's not going to make the top 8. You'd expect Hutt Old Boys to win that one at home?
Probably. I mean, I thought Wainui might have finished a little bit higher than they have this year. I think the fact that if that opportunity is dead and buried for them, I think they'll probably struggle emotionally to get up on that one. So, I'd probably go Hutt Old Boys.
Johnsonville Auries given a lifeline last week. They knocked over MSP, so they're sitting there. Pick up the 5 points here, and the result turns to what happens at OBU and Petone. You'd expect Auries to be too strong for Jabil.
I would. I would. There's a bit of a link between Jabil and Auries in the last few years, hasn't there? But
there has been,
But I would imagine that Auries will win that significantly because they will be wanting to get not only 5 points but as much on the old points for and against as they can. So yeah, it's one side desperate and one side nothing to play for.
North's MSP. Norths have been very good this year. They knocked over OBU last week. They win. They beat MSP. They'll end up winning the Swindale Shield. Big weekend at Norths. Reunion of the 2008 team. Yeah. I've had a look at who's coming back for that weekend. It's a big weekend at Norths, if you're getting my drift. Anaro Koliavu, Frank Rees, Buxton Popoli, all those guys back in. Their B side also, if they win the Harper Lock. So Norths, will they get up and do this?
Well, I watched them play last week against OBU, and they over the whole game, I felt they were the better side. They could have lost right at the end. OBU came back with a hiss and a roar, and old Middles, Chris Middleton,
stole the line out,
flogged the line out, and kept them alive. So I just think probably Norths will have too much emotion for Marist. I mean, I know speaking to TJ this week that there's just such a buzz around the fact that Norths have had such a lean time in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
They've finally got a chance to put their hands on some silverware. You know that the emotional tugs will come out around Jerry and all that stuff.
All that stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think Marist, from what I haven't watched them play this year, but what I see on paper, I probably thought they might have done a little bit better than they have. But I think North at home with so much to play for, I think will win that game.
I'm not saying anything about that one. OBU Petone. I'll just sit on the fence. OBU Petone. So crucial. OBU. If they win, they're going to end up there. If Norths lose, we know all those scenarios. Petone's got to pick up a point here to get into the Jubilee Cup round. If Auries win, Petone's got that 1 point. 4 tries within 7. Can they do it? They promise so much, don't they? They drip, they go, and then all of a sudden they just sort of dip away again.
Well, I think that's going to be a lively game because, as you say, the way the bonus points run, all they'll be interested in doing is getting 4 tries because that's the easiest way for them to operate. Yeah. I think OBU will kick themselves if they don't get a result here and Marist to actually get up. So I think probably emotionally, OBU will have a lot to play for. So I would pick an OBU victory, but Petone to pick up a point.
Well, righto. Tawa Paraplum.
Well, I've been really encouraged by Paraplum. They've knocked over a couple of sides, and Paraplum remind me of what Tawa was in the 80s. I remember when I first started coaching Tawa, we'd never beaten another side in Premier Rugby, and slowly we chipped away, and we'd go to Marist and get beaten by 80 and go to Upper Hunt and get flogged by 60, and then slowly it got better and better. And if you look at the progression of Paraplum, they've come on and they've won some games, and they beat the much vaunted Paniki this year. So they've had some good victories. I still think Tawa.
I was going to say, but in saying all that, yes, you're still okay. You're right. Yeah. And the last one, the Axemen against Upper Hutt.
Well, I think that's a dead rubber for both.
It is.
You're right. At Wellington.
Yes.
That's a draw.
Righto, good work. Hurricanes Highlanders?
That'll be the Hurricanes.
Oh, it is. Yeah, good work, good work.
Yeah,
Bordy, as always, fantastic catching up. Good luck for the future. No doubt we'll see you pop back in Wellington at some stage, and I'm sure the rest of the cane season will roll nicely for you. Steve Rogers fed me some information. I left most of the dirty stuff away because you and I go back. I know. So
he was involved in most of it.
I know, he was, but we'll get to him later. Yeah. Go well tomorrow night and we'll catch up soon.
Thanks,
Wellington Rugby TV, final round Swindale Shield, 2:45 kick-off. The Canes in action Friday night down at Forsyth Bar. It's going to be a big weekend. Get out and support it.